You're not broken. The healthcare system is. Or more accurately, it's working exactly as designed. Honor yourself. Celebrate your strength. Empower your transformation with your Yin-care. This is the Yin-care Podcast, and I'm your host, Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising. When our sensitive tissues are off, everything is off. That's one of the many reasons I absolutely love Yin-care's Herbal Wash. This incredible Taoist formula gently nudges the vaginal microbiome back into balance. Not to mention, it feels amazing. So get your hands on some Yin-care's Herbal Wash today. That's YINCARE.com. Restore, rejuvenate, and refresh with Yin-care. Welcome everyone into the Yin-care Podcast. I'm your host, Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising, and I'm just so excited to have you with me today. I wanted to just briefly acknowledge the timing of this episode. It's coming out right at the beginning of the Chinese New Year, and we're ushering in the year of the fire horse. And so in this tradition, it's associated with courage, momentum, and a refusal to live small or constrained. So it's really a year that asks for honesty, clarity, and a willingness to take responsibility for your own direction. And that feels like especially fitting for the conversation we're beginning here today. So this is a powerful year to take charge of your health creation journey, and not just through force or urgency, but through clear seeing. And this episode and this series that we'll be beginning are here to really lay the groundwork for all of that. So this is not by telling you what to do, but by helping you see the landscape that you're standing in. So any steps you take are truly your own. I'm honored to welcome you into the Medical Indoctrination Series, where we explore why the healthcare system isn't broken. It's working exactly as it was designed. This series will be interspliced between other episodes where I conduct interviews, as we have previously done. If what you hear here feels resonant, I'd really love for you to stay connected. Feel free to like this episode, share it with someone you care about, or subscribe so you don't miss the next part of the series. These conversations matter, and they tend to find people right when they need them. This series is here to gently reorient you to the structural hierarchy you've been living inside, often without even realizing it. So you can begin then making clear, conscious choices about how to engage or not engage within the medical industrial complex. My intention here is to not shame you or blame you or tell you what to do. It's simply to help you see the reality you're in so that you can reclaim your power within it. That being said, if you have no interest in truly thinking for yourself, this is not for you. Just leave. Just don't even bother watching anymore. Okay? This is for those of you who are ready to not only think for yourselves, but to take action in correcting the dynamic under which you have been living as it relates to your health. You've heard me speak about the health creation journey, and truly, when you can see these structures clearly and begin to embody this awareness, that's where your own health creation journey actually begins. Have you ever considered that we might actually be meant to be simply living peacefully in our bodies as it relates to our health? Not assessed, not diagnosed, not constantly monitored, not managed, not measured or controlled, just living. What would it feel like to live in a body that isn't treated as a problem to solve? What would it feel like to trust that your body has intelligence without needing permission to listen to it? What would your days look like if you weren't subtly bracing for the next diagnosis, the next test, the next thing that might be wrong? And I'm not saying that you're constantly thinking about it, but there is a subtle tracking that happens in the back of your mind. When is the next scheduled well check? What is your next scheduled lab or test that is required or recommended? And for those of you listening, I'm doing air quotes around those for your age category. And how would you feel if you didn't do it? What would your doctor say? What would your partner, family members, friends, or colleagues say? Would you sort of be subtly shamed for not doing it? If you already choose to not do these things, do you keep that on the down low and not share it? Just to note that this does not allow for true peace in your body. There is still a battle you are managing mentally and emotionally. You are being controlled. Have you ever imagined what health might feel like if it wasn't defined by numbers, ranges, and risk categories, but by vitality, clarity, resilience, and ease? Now I want you to notice something. If those questions feel almost foreign, if imagining peaceful embodiment feels naive or even irresponsible, that tells us something important. It tells us that something has a subtle or even not so subtle hold over you and your belief about your health. Because peace should not feel radical. And yet in our current medical landscape, it does. Have you ever considered that we might actually be meant to be living peacefully? That your body might not be a problem to manage, but a place to live? If that feels unrealistic, ask yourself why. Again, peace should not feel radical. Peace in our bodies, our minds, our hearts. That should be the baseline of our experience here. We live inside a system where constant vigilance is normalized, where surveillance is framed as care. And by surveillance, I'm referring to the constant monitoring of your health status through measurements, tests, questionnaires, family history, check boxes, regularly scheduled invasive procedures, and more. And it's just coming to me now, even our digital watches that are checking our health. We're constantly monitoring everything. So where being left alone in your body without engaging in the monitoring healthcare system, where that feels unsafe. That disparity between what feels innately human and what we are told is responsible is not accidental. It's designed. And that's what we're going to be naming today. I want to start this series by saying something very clearly. What we are living inside of is not a healthcare system that accidentally went wrong. It is a system that has been deliberately designed to manage populations, generate profit, and maintain control, not to cultivate sovereign, self-trusting humans. If that statement feels activating, I invite you to stay with me just a little bit more here, because activation is often the first sign that something true has really been named. Okay? I absolutely know that you likely already have been feeling in your body and knowing in your mind that something is horribly wrong with what we call healthcare. But you just can't totally place your finger on it, and I'm hoping to clarify some of that. Gaslighting, manipulation, and coercion are not glitches in the system. They are core mechanisms. When your intuition is dismissed as anxiety, pointing out that your body is the issue and is failing you, when your questions are reframed as non-compliance and you are shamed into behaving in the expected way that aligns with their protocols and procedures, when your hesitation is treated as irresponsibility and you are deemed reckless with your own health, that is not care. That is psychological conditioning. Most people don't experience this system as violent. They experience it as confusing, as subtly humiliating, as disempowering in ways they can't quite articulate. And over time, that confusion trains people to doubt themselves and defer authority, even when something feels deeply wrong. This is how indoctrination works. Not through force, but through normalization. You're taught slowly over a lifetime that health lives outside of you, that safety comes from compliance, that resistance is dangerous. By the time you're sick, scared, or vulnerable, the system doesn't need to coerce you. You've already learned to police yourself. Now we're going to just reframe this as like healthcare kind of being like a police state. And I'm going to name it plainly, without euphemism. The modern medical industrial complex functions as a police state. Not because every individual inside is malicious, but because the governing logic is really the same. Surveillance is constant and framed as protective. Monitoring is routine and framed as responsibility. Deviation from protocol is flagged as risk. You're presumed unwell unless proven otherwise. You're presumed incapable of discernment unless supervised. Compliance is rewarded. Refusal is punished socially, financially, and psychologically. Once you enter this system, you're no longer a human in relationship with your body. You are a risk profile to be managed. And for that matter, you're a billable item. We'll get more on that in later episodes. This is truly a hostile takeover of free choice. And the most effective part of that takeover is that you're told it's for your own good. Yeah. Many people sense this truth but struggle to articulate it because the moment you name it, you're told you're being dramatic, anti-science, or irresponsible. That response is intentional. Shame is one of the most effective tools of control. If you ever felt afraid to say no, afraid to ask questions, afraid to slow things down, there's nothing wrong with you. You're responding appropriately to a coercive environment. Before we go any further, though, I want to be very clear about what this series is not. This is not an attack on individual doctors, nurses, or practitioners. This is not anti-science. This is not about rejecting medicine or telling you what choices you should make. This series is not about burning systems down or replacing one authority with another. It's about learning how systems work. It's about understanding how power, profit, and protocol shape what's presented to you as care. And it is about reclaiming your ability to discern rather than unconsciously comply. Once you enter medical systems, you're stepping onto territory that is not neutral. You've stepped out of your jurisdiction where you have your own sovereignty intact and into a jurisdiction that can claim authority over you. These systems have their own priorities, incentives, and rules. And navigating them without losing your agency requires awareness, preparation, and often compromise if you're going to step into those systems. And that's why we got to think long and hard before we ever step foot in them. This series is here to help you see the landscape clearly so that if, when, or how you engage, you do so with eyes open. Waking up does not mean you immediately exit the system, although you could. It's unrealistic for most people. Stepping outside begins the moment you withdraw unconscious consent. So it's really stepping into your own consciousness around this, okay? And you may think you're conscious, but this is going to just unwind a lot of layers here. You step outside when you stop mistaking urgency for truth. When you stop confusing compliance with responsibility. And when you begin noticing how your body responds rather than overriding it. You don't break the spell by fighting the system. You break it by seeing it clearly. In the next episode, we're going to map the hierarchy itself. Who actually decides? Who benefits? And why so many people feel powerless even when they're told they have choices. Once you can see the structure, you can no longer be gaslit by it. And as we close each episode in this series, I want to offer a small moment of integration, because that was actually a lot. That wasn't a very long episode, but that was a power punch there, right? So I'm going to offer something that's not something to do or fix. It's just a way to let you kind of integrate and let everything that you've heard settle into your body and into your awareness. So as we come to a close today, let's reflect. Where in my life have I mistaken compliance for safety? And I'd like to share a personal example of this in my own life. This type of compliance can be extremely apparent in labor and delivery. And when I was in labor with my second baby, I was having a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean. Now, they don't often do those any longer, but in 2002, I was kind of on the border years where they were still doing this, still allowing you like and I'm just going to reflect back here on myself. I was in their system, and I'm using the language because they were allowing it. I was under their control. I wasn't under my control. Okay? So when I started my journey with that particular pregnancy, I had been working with a doctor. But when he wasn't confident that I would be able to have a VBAC, just was like exhibiting subtle signs that, yeah, we'll see if that happens. I switched to working with a midwife that worked in a hospital. So the hospital basically, they just pit you against your body constantly, right? They assume your body might not hold out. And I was progressing really well in my labor. I was in the shower and I was probably in transition, to be honest with you. And I was riding the waves when a nurse came in and told me that I needed to stop my shower and I needed to lay down on the bed and get the monitor strapped around me. And I said, I'm not going to do that unless my midwife agrees and that it would need to be done. And so they had her come in and tell me that I was just really going to need to do that. I was going to need to do it because, I had had a previous cesarean and heaven forbid, my body might explode on me. My uterus might rupture in the spot where they had sutured it, 2 years prior, which is plenty of time for that to heal. But, that's their protocol and I'm in their jurisdiction and they're in charge. So no illusions that you are in charge. So, of course, that also led to a cascade of interventions. Basically, you lay down on there and it's so painful and I'm in transition, like it's really coming on. And I did not want to have any medication, but I could not sit there on the bed like that and not have some kind of pain relief. It was just crazy. So then of course I did have some. I think they gave me something that worked really quick, and I think it was fentanyl, to be honest with you. It was terrible. Can you believe that goes into your bloodstream with your baby. And then after that, I had the epidural, and then my baby came like within, I don't know, like 30 minutes. I mean, like I said, I thought I was pretty sure I was in transition. Had I just stayed in the shower, none of that. The baby was coming. He was on. So anyway, I complied with them. So that's an example in my life where I had mistaken compliance for safety. And in that sense, I was really maintaining the safety. Really, it's really that I was looking out for my own safety, because they wouldn't do anything to in aggression to my like if I had stood up for myself and said I wanted to stay in the shower, they might have aggressively tried some other things and said, you have to do this, you have to do that. And I think that deep down I knew that could happen. So I was looking out for my safety in that sense. And another time that I complied was when I agreed to have a pap smear that I intuitively knew I didn't need to have. But just in case something might be wrong with my body, I should do it. So think over the next couple of weeks where in your life that you've mistaken compliance for safety. And at the end of each episode in this series, I'm also going to offer what I'm calling a gentle act of sovereignty. And this isn't a directive, a task, or something that you need to get right. It's simply a small way of practicing seeing differently without forcing change or creating disruption in your life. So we're just going to slowly shift, right? You're always free to take it, leave it, or come back to it later. So over the next couple of weeks until the next episode, here is your gentle act of sovereignty. Notice one moment where urgency is used to push a decision. All right? Notice one moment where urgency is used to push a decision. You're not broken. Your body is not the enemy. And your discomfort is not a failure. It's information. If what you heard here today feels resonant, I'd love for you to stay connected. Feel free to like this episode, share it with someone you care about, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out, and leave us a comment. Let me know what you thought of this. This is pretty radical stuff. I'd love to hear. And stay in touch with us on social media, on Instagram at yin_care, or TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Yin-care. Thank you for being willing to see what many are still trained to ignore, for coming on this journey with me to step truly into your own sovereign health creation journey. And we'll talk more about why I call it that. Let's harness the power of the year of the fire horse. Stay rooted in the herd. Rise wild and free. I'm Margaret Jacobson, and this is the Yin-care Podcast. I'll meet you in the next episode, and until then, honor yourself, celebrate your strength, empower your transformation with your Yin-care.